Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar provided by Lindsay. Today, we're just going to be looking at a day in the life of GRC Specialist. And with us today, we've got two cybersecurity consultants who has got a wide range of experience in cybersecurity, most especially in the GRC. But before we start, I just want to launch a poll just to gauge your interest in cybersecurity. So I want you to kind of answer this question. Why choose a career in cybersecurity? And for those that have chosen a career in cybersecurity, you can just answer why you chose it. And for those that want to choose it, why do you want to choose a career in cybersecurity? Is it because it's an in-demand career option, great salary prospects, a range of opportunity to grow, passionate about security, job satisfaction? Let's see why you're kind of interested in cybersecurity. So I think the first speaker that we've got is Christy Ogubere. We are fortunate to have Christy in our midst today. Christy is a cybersecurity consultant at Intex IT, and she advises business on how to protect their networks, application, and information assets from malicious attack or errors from employees, criminal hackers, unforeseen events. She has over 22 years of experience in different fields of information technology and security. She's specialized in risk management, vulnerability assessment. She also does penetration testing, physical security. Christy has a passion for solving business cybersecurity challenges through understanding the problem. And she has consulted for various companies as security consultant and trainer, where she has conducted physical security and pen testing reviews. She has a degree in computer science and a master's degree in computer forensics and hacking. She's also a trainer. She's a PCB trainer, and she has delivered a lot of corporate training, as well as InfoSec professionals certification like CISSP, CEH, CISM, ISO lead implementer, lead pen tester, risk management, and so on and so forth. She's a member of ISACA and ISC Square. So join me to welcome Christy to this webinar. So let me quickly jump back to the results of the poll. All right, looks like a lot of people chose passionate about security, job satisfaction. That's why a lot of people want to choose a career in cybersecurity, followed by range of opportunities to grow. 45% job satisfaction, 36% range of opportunity to grow, and in-demand career option. Nobody chose great salary prospects. That I would have thought that's going to be number one. Yeah, but it's good to know. So I'm going to hand over to Christy.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah. Morning and welcome.
Hello, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to speak. You can't see me at the moment. I think my video is not showing. I think.
All right. Did you try to switch it on?
But it says that you've stopped it.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
I didn't, but let me see why. Okay, maybe I need to make you kind of a co-host and see what I do.
Yeah.
You want
Okay.
to try now? Yeah.
Okay, let me try.
All right, cool.
You can see me. Okay, that's it.
Yep.
Hello, good morning. Oh,
Morning.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me, and I really appreciate being here. So I really want to start with things that I'll do on a day-to-day basis, and they quite differ because at our consultancy, we get various requests for projects, and each day-to-day might be slightly different. So my day typically starts, well, I wake up about 5, 6 o'clock, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm working from home, I tend to stay a bit later. I wake up and start, let's say, about 9:30. But if I have to go out onto the client site, I tend to leave early. Either I'm driving or I'm taking the train, depending on where it is. Since the pandemic, more and more clients are favoring work remote. So most of work, some of them we do remotely. So GRC. So part of what I do, which is, so a day might be either pen testing, which covers the risk part of it, compliance, which covers the cyber essentials and the ISO implementation or internal auditing. And then obviously when as part of those, I find out about the governance of the organization to see how they understand the culture of the organization. So those are the things I do all together. I would say make up the GRC part of the role I do. So let me start off with the day. So on the first, so I wake up in the day, start 9:30. Some days I start 11. Okay, but let's say I start a normal day at 9 o'clock. So if, for example, let's say we have a project, a pen test project, which could be either internal a network network pen test, or it could be a web application pen test, or it could be an external pen test. So what we do with my team, so I work with a group of consultants, where I kind of project manage these, let's say, the pen test. So for example, I would probably take one part of it. I might decide to do the vulnerability scanning of it, understand what the weaknesses are, and then another consultant will take over the pen testing of that. So we'll need to schedule meetings and assign, okay, which consultant is doing what, and what part am I doing? So that's for the pen test. So let's start with the web application pen test. So with the web application pen test, once we've obviously we've had the scoping meeting with the client. So we all be at the meeting and we discuss what the client's requirements are. And we also look at the duration. So from the scope, we can say, okay, this may take us 5 to 10 days, depends on the size of the application. So furthermore, once that's been agreed, we send over the paperwork, because obviously we cannot start without having that paperwork that gives us permission to test their system, to pen test their systems. Okay, we cannot do that, because if we start without that sign off, then we are really hacking ourselves without permission, become black hat hackers. So once we've got that sign off, and then these project managers assign the tasks to different consultants, then the work commences. So as part of the agreement, we would decide either to brief the client. Some clients are different. They want daily, some want at the end of the project, before when we finish writing the report. So let me tell you the tools we use. So for web application testing, we primarily use Nessus for the vulnerability scanning. There are others there, but we primarily use Nessus. And also we use Burp Suite Pro for the web app, and we used Nmap as well. And once we have found what the vulnerabilities are, we use other tools such as Dirtbuster, and we start to identify the vulnerabilities, and we would have a proof of concept. So we discover the vulnerabilities. We want to actually confirm that these vulnerabilities are such as cross-site scripting, SQL injection, to see if they actually exist as not a false positive. So we have a proof of concept, and we carry out these tests. And I said, depends on what we discover. If it's something that is highly, highly vulnerable, we let the client know, and we seek advisements on how they want us to continue with that aspect that we just discovered. And then at the end of the testing, well, to tell you the truth, the report is not actually left to last. We don't leave it to last, because if not, it's going to be quite a tedious task. We take screenshots and write some of the report as we go. So when we get to the end, the report is nearly finished, and we schedule a meeting with the client and brief them on the findings. So once we brief them of the findings, obviously they need to be fixed. So the client will go back and say, okay, we're going to review this. So we do an executive summary. It depends on who we're speaking to. It could be a top management, or it could be the IT manager. Now, if it's let's say, a non-tech person, we'll obviously have to break this down into a language that they would understand, so that, because sometimes they do fund it. Or if it's IT manager, then we send them the technical review. And then they go back and ensure that these vulnerabilities are fixed, and we retest again and write another report, okay? And once they're happy, it gets signed off, and then that project ends. So that is just one part of the pen test. So it depends on the scope, and so it might last, let's say, 5 to 10 days. Some last 5 days, okay? So we always go with what the client wants, okay? But our role here is to understand what the risks are and inform the client, this is what you're facing, and they accept or do not accept the risk. Now, another thing that we do, or I do personally, depends again, if I'm not doing pen testing on that day or not part of that project, is Cyber Essentials. So I'm a Cyber Essentials auditor, and Cyber Essentials is a government-backed scheme with the NCSC, which is a part of GCHQ. And it's a certification. There are 2 steps there. There is the standard and the plus. So let's say we get requests for, let's say, the basics. We send them the info. Sometimes the clients, they know about the info already, but we send them and we have standard documentation that we send out to these clients. Okay, and then they read it and say, okay, yes, we want to go. We want to register for this. Then we set up an account for them, and they fill out the questionnaire. So if they're just doing the standard, then once they've completed, I would look over the answers to ensure that they're aligned to meet the standards. Now, if things that might fail, if unsupported system is a failure, things that we expect to have 2-factor authentication. So it must meet the standard. Okay, so, and that takes, let's say, depends again on the scope. It's a large, small, medium, micro, small, medium, or large company. It might take a long time. Sometimes as well, some of our clients do not have the IT support, so we have to support them in achieving this to pass, really. Not so we give them some sort of guidance. Okay, we give them guidance on saying, look, this is the risk, this is what you need to do. Make sure they update the asset register. Sometimes the asset register is all over the place, and we have to provide that advice. So that's the first step. So I might be doing that on that day. I might have about 3 or 4 different clients doing the Cyber Essentials standard. Now, once the standard, the basic is completed, then the next step, some of these clients want to go into the plus. So with the plus, this is where I verify that they're actually meeting the standard. Okay, so it's not a work of fiction. So another scoping meeting, another meeting is arranged. Again, I said now today by Zoom. Typically, we would have gone into on-site to do this. Now with the flexibility of Teams on Zoom, we make the appointment and I would inform them what they need. We have a checklist and a document such as procedures and process. So they are prepared, okay? They know what's happening on the day. So we make an appointment, and I said these tests are carried remotely. We use Teams. There's an option to use Team Viewer to carry out these tests. So the Cyber Essentials are five steps, and we do external vulnerability assessment. I also do an internal vulnerability scan. Again, I said our primary tool is Nessus. And once that is, let's say the scan is running, then I'll move on to other tests, such as malware tests, ensure that their controls are actually doing what it says. So I would send benign malware files to see if their anti-malware actually blocks these files that I've sent via email. So this is visual. I have to see that this is done. Okay, and then I'll check their systems to make sure the operating systems are up to date. If they have tablets or mobile devices, these are checked physically. So I need to see it. And then, because if not, it's a fail. And make sure, well, their browser are preventing malware, so no drive-by malware. So these are the checks, and that could take, let's say a few hours. Let's say a day maximum, let's say 6 hours, depending on how large. Because if the company has a lot of assets, then I have to sample the assets. Okay, so just a sampling. So that will take, let's say, a day. Now, once that's completed, we'll go back to review the documentation, and then I will write the report. Now, with the vulnerability assessment, if we use the CVSS scoring, if it's over 7, that's automatic fail. They're failed automatically. Okay, so we do a patch management scan. If it's over 7, it's automatic fail, because it shows that there are risk. The system is quite vulnerable to threats. And then the same process again. They have to go. We inform them of the results. We send them the report, and they have some time to go and fix it, and then we retest again. So we might be doing that on a particular day. Now, another thing that I do is the ISO. So some organizations want support with implementation, or they may want support with internal audit. Now, again, I rearrange a meeting, either myself, because if I'm busy on another project, obviously I cannot do this. This is assigned to another consultant who will speak to the prospective client, and we find out what their requirements are. So if they have, sometimes they think it's going to be like an ISO will take about a month, and unfortunately, it's not so. It could depend on the scope. Again, I can always come back to the scope. It could take between 4, 6, or 12 months. So we find out what their requirements are, and then we start up with a gap analysis. Okay, a gap analysis again we might take 4 to 6 days, so that we understand what the gaps are. So we do a gap analysis, and then we make sure, and during that gap analysis, we're doing review of the policies to see what policy, if they have the policy ready for the ISMS, because they may have existing policies. But the key thing there as well is we have to make sure that there's a document from top management, either the board, ensure that gives the permissions for this ISMS to go ahead. So those are part of the document review. We do the document review, and then once you've identified the gaps, then we will commence the ISO implementation. There might be there's other clients that sometimes they only want you to probably, they have a team already, so you might be the technical expert working with that team in order for them to prepare for the certification. Now, if I was, let's say, a client, I supported a client and go to the site over a few days, or sometimes it could be once a week or once every other week. If I supported that client, I cannot personally do the internal audit or the pen test, okay? Because it'd be a conflict of interest, okay? However, if I'm not part of the implementation, sometimes some organizations call us for the pen test part of it. So we only do the pen test part of it and obviously follow the procedures as with any other pen test. So, and again, that might take a few weeks initially, and then possibly we get called in. They said this will take 4 to 6 months. So again, if it's going to take 4 to 6 months from ground zero, we have to probably go back like once every 2 weeks. Or I said today, sometimes these are done remote. The documents that we review are stored in a secure cloud with encryption, etc. So we can review these. We don't have to go to their site today. Other things mentioned about training. So with training, I've reduced the training that I do this year because I wanted to focus more on the consultancy side, the actual work that we do. But what I tend to, when what I do mentor for on PCB training, what does that mean? I teach ISO 27001, lead auditor and lead implementer, as well as the risk assessment. So what I've learned in the field is what I use to train. So obviously there's a standard materials, but I use my experience to teach the learners understand on how to implement and how to audit and how to carry out risk assessments in preparation for ISMS system. Also, things I do as well for certification courses. I teach the CISSP, the CISM, and ethical hacking. So for the pen test. But I said this year with the schedule, I have drastically reduced the training because there's we get a lot of requests for, as I said, the pen test, the ISO, and the cyber security essentials has really taken off. So I really wanted to spend that time in satisfying our clients and able to answer questions as well. Because the thing about training is like it takes your time. That if you're delivering a course, you can't do anything else. And personally, I'm a person that likes flexibility. That's how I decided to work like this. I said sometimes I don't start till 11 o'clock, and the reason why I choose that, I wanted something that's flexible. After all, when I make appointments, yes, I do it around the clients, but I also do it around myself because I have a schedule of meetings, and I have to make sure that they do not clash. And so again, time planning, time management is quite important, and communicating to the clients. And sometimes it's not the client, you may have 3 people on the team that you may have to brief. So that usually take my day. So it's a combination of these free roles that I play as part of a cybersecurity consultant. And yes, and sometimes, even though I start at 11 o'clock, sometimes I might not finish too late. So if I start, let's say I did a work too late, let's say 7 or 8, then I must say, okay, I'm not going to start at 9 o'clock. I'm going to schedule to start at 11. So everything we do, the key thing I would say is with all this is ongoing learning, because even as myself, that we deal with a lot of clients from micro to medium or even large. I always learn, sometimes I might come across a legacy system, and I also have to do research myself. So nobody knows everything. So, or it might be a system I've not encountered for some time, for years, okay? And so I have to, as I call this lifelong learning. Just because we're doing this, we don't know anything, because the risks change. So I have to continue to read to find out what these risks are. It's not just working, it's the learning part of it, which is quite exciting, because the environment that we work in, we operate in, is quite dynamic. You think that you've sorted something out, and then something else pops up. So I call it like you're playing whack-a-mole. So it was a dynamic environment. I have personally have to keep my knowledge and skills and keep on reading, keeping up to date. And really, so it starts, I said, starts at 9. We carry out these tasks until 4:30. Some days it's just report writing. Sometimes it's just banging on the report to get it right. We don't do everything from scratch. We have some templates we have in place to help us save time. We have templates that we use. However, the report must be accurate. You must ensure that when you have your proof of concept, you explain what that means, because just in case the report is sent to, let's say, a non-technical person. So we have images, we have references, and it's quite robust as well. The same thing with the ISO. If you're doing internal auditing, you must love writing. I'm going to say the reporting part is the most exciting part of it, but you've got to write the report, okay? So because again, you have to present your findings. So let's say you carried out internal audit, you have to plan the audit, okay? So you have to plan the audit, and then with the client, and then of course make sure that you have those because you may need to interview key member of staff, you may need to observe key member of staff. So they must be aware of that. So you can't just say, let's say you arrive on site, or if it's a remote, oh, can I speak to this person? Things must be planned. So emails must be sent to the right people, so they're prepared, the documentation is ready for you to do a document review, or if you're not happy with the documents, interview key members of staff, interview or observe them while they're carrying out the role to satisfy that they're meeting the ISO standard, okay? And then you're going to have to write your report. Again, you have to write your report. So some days, I said, is pure report writing. We write as we go, but sometimes you want to make sure that all is there, all the things that you observe is there. So some days are report writing, some are having meetings with clients, and sometimes we have to do both at the same time. You're writing a report, and the telephone is being forwarded to you and says, someone wants to know about cyber essentials. Could you tell them a bit more? They're on the phone now. So you have to pause what you're doing and then speak to them, just to give them, for they want to have that expert on the phone to answer the questions, because sometimes people, when they hear the word audit, something just sparks in their mind and they become quite afraid. So our role is not to make you afraid. We're here to advise, support, and find a solution to any problems that you have. That's why we do this, and follow you and guide you throughout from the start of the project to the end. And even when the project ends, we don't just shut off. You can email us at any time, because we develop a relationship. And because we develop a relationship with our clients, they always come back. When it comes to either for another internal assessment, they think about us, they come back to us each year. It's because we are there not to judge you, but we're here to support you, okay? And then at 5 or 7 o'clock, the day ends and family life begins.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's quite a lot of tasks that you do.
Yes.
Pen testing, cyber essentials, the standard and the plus aspect of it. Then do some ISO implementation and audits.
Yes.
You know, so I think if anyone has got any question, you can raise up your hand, then we'll allow you to ask questions. But before they ask, let me just quickly ask, because this looks like a lot of activities that you do.
Yeah.
And for someone that just want to start their career in cybersecurity, what kind of advice do you give them? How do they start? You know, because this looks like a lot of activities, and that can be overwhelming for someone that really want to just start their career. So what kind of advice do you give to someone that really want to just start their career in cybersecurity, most especially in GRC space?
Okay. The first thing I would say to anyone is know yourself. Know the type of person that you are, understand your personality. Okay. Because I understood myself. So what that means is I'm a little bit of an introvert, but I had to come out myself because I had to communicate with people. So number one, understand yourself and do your research first. Because within cybersecurity, GRC, there are different roles. Would you, like, let's say you're a pen tester. A pen tester, you go on site and they leave you alone. If you're happy with that, then that's fine. But you still have to communicate, and so you have to develop your communication skills. So I would say, first of all, know yourself, and then do your research to see, okay, which arm of cybersecurity that interests me. Don't look, nothing's exciting, it's hard work, it's not exciting. However, which interests me, and then ensure that one, you start with the fundamentals, start with the basics, okay? Such as networking, understand networks. So for example, if you, let's say I'll give you a report, you must be able to understand how the information goes from one network to another. And if I give you a list of open ports, what is the weaknesses there? So networking first, understanding networks. So I would say start with doing a certification. Unfortunately, to verify yourself in the interview, you have to be certified. I personally think that if you can prove yourself by experience, that suffices. However, this is how it is. So understand yourself, do a certification, that Network Plus or Security Plus first. Then you can do, I would say CISMP. Why the BCS CISMP? Because it gives you a broad view of cybersecurity and risks. And then secondly, do not go for the big jobs. People want to immediately, I want to work in Microsoft. I want to work in Amazon. No, start where you are. For example, when I graduated, I didn't get a job straight away. So I'll tell you what, this is going many years ago. So you know what I did? I got a job by an agency to do admin. When I got there, I went straight to the IT department. I don't know what got over me, but this is what I want to do. And I spoke to the IT manager, said, look, this is what I am willing to work. And I don't know, he gave me work. So that's where I started at doing what? IT support, and then graduate to network and system admin. And obviously while you're there, you learn as you go. Do you understand? So one, understand yourself. Don't always look for the big companies. Start with a housing association, a charity, because one, you're going to learn, you're going to wear many hats, and that's how you learn. Do you understand? So you have that period of discovery. So when you learn, you're doing many things, then you can say, okay, then, you know, this is the direction I want to go. This is the direction I want to go. Do you understand? That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thanks. That's quite a good piece of advice for someone that want to move into cybersecurity. You know, you just have to start small. You know,
Yeah.
look for what you really are passionate about, and start working towards that. I've got a couple of people that want to ask questions, so I'm going to start with Dollar. So yeah, Dollar, you can just ask a question. I've kind of given you the
Thank you.
mic.
Okay. Sorry, I wanted to ask you when you mentioned when you started out with pen testing. And then
Yes.
you started out with Cyber Essentials and then went to ISO 27001. I noticed you didn't talk about a risk assessment. And I mean, I can understand that with the initial understanding the system of the company, but obviously when you come to ISO 27001, that is something you will do. Can you please clarify this for me? As a cybersecurity consultant that you are, regardless of whether you're dealing with a small company and whether you're just examining their systems and vulnerabilities and so on and so forth, before you get to the ISO 27001 either implementation or review, does the risk assessment always come in for you as part of what you do to assess them before you advise them on their vulnerabilities?
Yes. So I said we start off with, because when you walk in, you don't know what the systems are. You have analysis, and then you do a risk assessment. Okay. Now remember, as I said to you, they may have teams already. Sometimes you are supporting the team, or sometimes you might be assigned to do the risk assessment. So if they say, okay, we want you to do the risk assessment part of it, then we do so using a model. So because if to do cyber, I use ISO 27005 to conduct the risk assessment plus tools. So I've got the standard and I have other tools, which I don't want to mention here, but other tools we use. So we always carry out risk assessment, because if not, how do we understand the risk? And also we need to also understand the risk tolerance of the client as well.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks. So I think Tunji, you can ask your question.
Hi, okay, thank you very much. So mine is pretty much kind of like a different thing, because I'm 51 years old. I run my own private business. I trained as a lawyer over 20 years ago, and I'm recently trying to transit into cybersecurity, and I'm starting from scratch. I like what she said when she said you have to know yourself. So I've been able to look inward and identify what kind of person I am. I'm almost like you are. I'm an introvert, but I've seen that the question I'm asking now is, am I in the right trajectory, in the sense that I'm starting right from the scratch? I'm starting with foundational courses. I'm starting with courses for beginners, and my primary objective is to get into the GRC space, basically, because the GRC space has to do with compliance and risk and governance. I'm just thinking, is that the right path? I have a friend who's mentoring me. He's been in cybersecurity for 20 years plus, and he's also said that, but I also want to have a second opinion, basically. So that's it.
Okay, to answer your question, you must, I'll use the word must, always start with the fundamentals. It's like you're building a house. You must have a foundation first. You can't have a roof and then without the foundation. So yes, you're on the right path. You must have the foundation. You must know the elementary first, okay? Because if you don't understand elementary and you go either to the roofing, it's going to collapse, but it's going to fall on nothing, okay? So yes, you're doing the right thing. So start with the basics. And if you have the chance to shadow somebody, if you said your friend is shadowing someone is there mentoring you or supporting you, ask if you could have a chance to see them working as well, so that what you're learning, you can actually see it in practice. Okay, and you also have to do a little bit of work. You can move, I mean, cyber, you can move into the industry. You don't have to have, I mean, today you don't have to have a degree in cyber, but you must have the passion and the willingness to learn, and also want to start from the bottom. So age really has got nothing to do with it. It comes down to the person. How passionate are you to be in this industry, and how passionate do you want to learn? And that's it. That's all you need.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. So Tuji, age is not a barrier. You are just a young 51-year-old chap. So obviously, you can start now and build on whatever you're going to learn. And that's good. You got that good background in law. So there's cybersecurity law that you can also, dive into, if that's an area you want to move into. There are regulations and laws that guide cybersecurity, which are also very interesting as well. So yesterday ask you a question. So let me just allow you to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here. It's a great opportunity. My question is just like our sister said the other time, that we'll start where we are. I want a kind of expansion on where you are. How will I start from where I am now? How can I start up? Yes.
Okay. So when I say start where you are, number one, start learning. So that's where, start learning, okay? Start to learn. And secondly, where do you work at the moment?
I work in a private school.
Now, okay, you work in a private school. Now,
Yes.
in your school, they have systems. Who protects the systems there?
Yes.
Who protects the systems?
Okay.
Okay. Who protects? Because you have systems there. You have networks in the school.
Yes.
You have wireless networks in the schools.
Yes.
You have VLANs. Okay. And then obviously you have you probably might have cloud. Who protects that? Who does that? Who does that work there?
Like our IT person just come in and install softwares and the like. That's just what is obtainable for now.
Now, the software that is installed, who monitors it? Who monitors the software? Do you have policies? Do you have security policies? Just tell me. Have you seen your security policies?
No.
Then you need to ask. You must have a security policy where you work.
Okay.
Now, if you haven't, okay. If you haven't, okay. Let me give you a suggestion. If you investigate, you don't have. Then go and find templates and templates for security and volunteer to your organization. I want to create the security policies for you.
Okay.
I want to, okay, let me see your systems. When did the person come the next time? Ask him, can I support you with this?
Okay.
Okay. That's what you start where you are. It's easier in the company that you're in because they know you already and they trust you. But if you go outside, that's when they start asking you questions. Can we see your background? Can I see this? But if you're in there, they trust you already.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they haven't got any policies, go and find how to write policies and write some.
Okay.
Go and check your systems. Find out what the operating systems are. Find the version numbers. Just tell me, okay? What controls do they have in place? Do you have two-factor? Do you have a password policy? Find out that information and create them. That's what I mean, start where you are. Then you get the experience where you are, and once you experience, you're there for some time, then you say, okay, you know what, I have enough to move to the next position. Do you understand?
Yes.
When you're inside, they're more likely to trust you than going to another company who does not know you. But when you leave with something. I have created policy. I have reviewed policy. I review policy annually. Okay. I have provided advice to the IT manager. That's exactly what you're doing. That's what I mean. Start where you are.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. That's a very good advice. And I've just posted the SANS security policy template link on the chat.
Fantastic.
So you can just click on that and you can start with the acceptable use, policy where you can use to try to get your user to follow some basic security acceptable use process. So I think that's the first thing. Just look for the acceptable use policy, and that tells users what they can do, what they cannot do, and And you can look at some other policy as well, and try to adapt it. It's free, and you can use it. And start with that, and that will be good. So, and you can also put that in as part of your experience. Where start looking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we still have some other people that want to ask questions. So I think we've got like 3 more. Okay, we'll just make it
Okay.
quick. Maybe we allow 2 minutes each. Let's start with
Yeah.
A Okonofua.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. So just a quick one, and I like what Christy said to the previous lady about starting where you are, because my history basically is I've been in financial services for about 15 years, and last year in a company I started working in recently, I saw a secondment position for information security analyst where they didn't need any experience. It was just secondment. I applied for the role. I got the role. It was 1 year. And in May this year, they made me permanent. But what I've realized, like the previous guy who also spoke, the one trying to transit from law to information security, I felt the best thing would actually be to start from the bottom, just get foundation on some relevant areas and things. But I've changed that approach now, and this is where I need you to kind of guide me or provide advice, because I don't know if I'm just becoming a jack of all trade, master of none. So I'll explain.
Okay.
When I started this secondment, we were doing internal auditing at the time, and they dumped me there. So within a month, I had to audit some business areas, no previous experience or whatever. So I went online, got lots of courses, read about ISO 27001 just to be ready for that specific task. And yeah, it turned out well. After that, they dumped us to another project. So what I realize I do is when I'm given a task to do, I go get resource and read on that. We had to do risk assessment recently. I packed aside everything I've been doing about internal audit. Let me know about risk we're currently doing and do it well. Last month, October month, cybersecurity month, they put me in charge of creating training and awareness for information security. Out of my comfort zone, nothing I've previously done. I packed internal audits, I packed every other thing, got resources to do that. So that's what I do. For every task I'm given, I just pack what I've been doing previously and just focus on that one, get resources to make me better. And I'm not completing like internal audit. I wouldn't say I'm a perfect internal auditor. I haven't completed the course, but I'm just jumping based on what I've been given. So I don't know, almost in a bid to kind of prove myself. I think it paid off because at the end of the 1 year secondment, they made me permanent. But in my own best interest, how would you advise I go about this so I'm not just jack of all trade and not really mastering anything?
Okay. Let me ask a question. Out of the 3 tasks that you carried out, which one did you enjoy the most?
Internal audit.
Okay. Why?
That's a difficult one to ask.
Okay.
To answer rather.
Okay. So as I said, know yourself. So okay. So since you enjoy the internal audit and okay, there's more I need to know, then why don't you? Then you need to have a word with your HR and say to them, look, I love to do this. I will need to learn more about this because number one, we need to be compliant. Okay, can I focus on this? And then can somebody else take on the others? I can support them if required, but somebody else need to do this. Is that might be a HR discussion? Just tell me. Okay, so choose. So you said you enjoy the internal auditing more. Focus on that for now. Okay, it's a good thing you did the others. It's a good thing because it's a good thing. But focus on internal audit and have a word with HR. So look, I think because this needs to be done, this is quite important.
Yeah.
And tell them the risk. And then could someone else do those roles? However, you can support if necessary, but you need to concentrate on this. So that might be an HR thing.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We just got like 5 more minutes to go because we got another, panelist on. So I'll let me ask Chukwubike Ken to ask.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Christy, the host. I've learned one thing. If there's one thing I've learned from this class, it is always be open-minded. Always,
Yes.
always see every task as a learning opportunity. That's what matters. Yes. But you also emphasized on certifications, because if you can prove your experience, that's a good thing. But in the work space, certification is also very important. So I want to ask, for someone who is starting out, what will your advice would be the first certification one should go after as a security enthusiast, someone looking to enter cybersecurity? What is that certification that is recognized maybe internationally that you recommend that we pursue? The very first one, please.
CompTIA Security Plus.
Okay, CompTIA Security Plus.
Security
Okay.
Plus. Okay.
Okay.
And you need to understand networks, because what is it you're securing? Okay. So CompTIA Security Plus recognized globally. CompTIA Network Plus recognized globally. So I said go for global, things that recognize, just in case you want to go to another country, you've got the certification there. So what certification really does is this, it opens the door for you, but when you get it through that door, you have to prove it through your experience. It's just a door opener. Because I know many people don't have certification, but they're very good. Understand? It's just a way to open the door. But when you get through the door, you have to prove it through the experience, and not just experience, by your person as well. To see sometimes they know, some organizations know you don't have the experience, but they can see you're passionate about it. So sometimes they want to see your passion, so they can invest in you. Okay. Yes. Some people say they're going for the money. It's not the money. It's because you love doing it.
So we should get the experience, then the certification, maybe.
Sorry?
Are you saying we should? Because you say when we get the certification, it's like a door has been opened, so we need to prove ourselves. So are you advising we should gain some level of experience, then be certified, so that we can prove our certification? Is that what you're advising?
Well, the purpose of gaining knowledge is to implement it. So you do a course, you pass, you get a certificate, and then you have to implement the knowledge that you learned.
Okay.
If you give a certificate, okay, that's fine. Prove it. Okay. So it was what you learned, you have to put into practice, knowledge and skill.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So the last question is going to be from Abibi. Jonathan, don't worry, you have opportunity to ask later.
Thank you so much. I think it stayed because I learned that you said 5 minutes to go. Please, next time, just a suggestion. Please always try to make the chat box enable. Okay. Thank you.
I think the chat box is, you can continue to ask questions in the chat box. It's all there. You can type your question there. It's open. If you got questions,
it's disabled from mine. Yeah, it's disabled.
Is it disabled for you? Because
yeah,
someone asked a question.
I don't know. The chat box is disabled.
Oh, that's interesting. Because someone asked a question on, I think Dollar typed a question on that, and I was able to answer that. Okay.
I saw it disabled. Yes.
All right. Well, what's your question anyway?
No, that's just my request. That's always make the chat box enabled. Just a request.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So, okay. So if that is your question, then maybe I'll allow Jonathan. Oh, Jonathan has gone. Okay, maybe we'll be able to. Okay. So, okay, I've opened the chat box now. So, you can chat and ask your question if you want to ask. Thanks for that observation. So thank you very much, Christy. I wish
You're
we have
welcome.
time.
Thank you.
I wish we have time to go on and on and on and on. And I believe everyone has, learned one or two things. And, we really appreciate your time. And
It's my pleasure.
Right, thanks a lot.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
So I will now move on to Raman now. Raman is our next speaker. So Raman, you can switch on your camera if you don't mind. So that we'll be able to match the name with the face.
Yeah, that's fine.
So to speak.
Just have to enable the volume.
Yeah. So
the camera.
okay. So Raman is a cybersecurity and risk management consultant with several years of experience. He's kind of flexible, enthusiastic, analytical, highly skilled, IT governance, risk and compliance professional with experience in supporting IT projects from planning all through to delivery. It's a skill in IT security analysis, cybersecurity, PCI DSS, implementing and maintaining IT infrastructure for business solutions. He has got a lot of problem-solving skills. He maintains good relationship with clients. He has keen interest in challenging tasks, innovative, creative, and also a great team player with valid security clearance. And I may say I've also worked with Raman before on a couple of projects. We work together with the clients in Northampton, and also it's also a consultant for LINSEC, cybersecurity, and we've done a lot of delivery in terms of PCB, ISO certification training. So welcome, Raman, and we would like to hear from you. Your day. How does your day look like, and some other experience that you can share with our audience today.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for the introduction. Actually, you're actually blowing off my head like with those appraisals of what I've done in the past and everything. Hi, everyone. My name is Raman Raji, and I'm an experienced information security consultant. I've been around for some time. And for me, I like to have interactive sessions with people. I'm not new to training, to be fair. I've actually been engaged with a lot of people and everything. So I've got little hours to talk about a lot of stuff today. So I'll start with the part of the session, which will be for half an hour. I've prepared some quick slides, which I would present. And after that, we can have the second half an hour to answer questions which anyone might have. So I'm just going to share my screen, if you don't mind seeing my slides. Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen now. At least one person can. Yeah? Just checking if my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So I can actually see myself. Okay, this column on the left. Okay, good. Right, okay. So today we're just going to have a quick conversation about GRC daily activities. And apologies, I'm actually suffering from some cold, so if my voice go a bit flickering, apologies to that. So GRC daily activities. So to start with, most people hear about GRC. Some people knows what it stands for. Some people don't know. Some people think it's the easiest part of information security to dive into. But I'm sorry to break your heart. It's not the easiest. It's actually the hardest, because for you to have understanding of GRC function of advisory, you need to have knowledge on end-to-end information security. So you might not be able to do the hands-on job in terms of technical bits, or maybe security operation centers, maybe monitoring of components or anything like that. But you should be able to understand what those tools does, how it is being done. You should be able to understand how to advise people on the right thing to do within information security. And I believe for you to be able to advise someone, to guide someone in implementing the task, you should have the knowledge of how to do the task itself. So even though you don't know how, you're not doing it practically, someone else is doing those aspects for you, you should be able to communicate it. So in the nutshell. So to start with, what does GRC stand for? Well, I've made a very simple slide here. So one slide would not go for too long because we have only half an hour to talk about this, then we can proceed. GRC is an acronym which stands for governance, risk, and compliance. But the term GRC means more than that. We would actually go, as we proceed, we would explain what does governance actually mean? What does risk actually mean? What does compliances mean? Well, GRC as well coordinated, as a well-coordinated and integrated collection of all the capabilities necessary to support principal performance at every level of the organization, which means, just as the former speaker said, at every level of an organization, there is a system. Every organization has a computer. I believe so. Once, if there's a system, there's a computer, there will be a network. Once you have a network, somebody is actually there protecting those networks to enable it for functional usage. That is where GRC comes in. Someone needs to be there, some level of capabilities needs to be embedded, which is necessary to support principal performance at every level of the organization. Okay, I'm going to try to abstain from a lot of security jargons. So I'll try and speak as normal as possible. And obviously when questions come in, we might actually dive down into more. These capabilities that I've mentioned here actually is done in different segments. So in terms, when you work in governance, risk, and compliance aspect of information security, you don't just work with security stakeholders only or IT stakeholder only. For instance, you work with the internal auditors, which is part of the team in some cases. You work with compliance team of the organization. You also do a lot of risk management, that you work with different layers of risk. That's part of your job. You'll be surprised to find legal and finance embedded into this. The term, you work with legal team. One of the key functions of GRC is to ensure that you have someone accountable for systems that are non-functioning. Say, for instance, you have a third party working with your organization. Maybe the third party is helping you guys to sort out your payroll system. Okay, should there be any incidents or any issues with this payroll system, which collects a lot of sensitive information, such as people's account details, bank informations, name and address, and everything HR have would be embedded into your into your payroll system. So if there's an incident with that tool, who is going to take charge? Who is going to look after them? Even though you have the best of the best security, you are still prone to be attacked. There's nothing across the internet that cannot be infiltrated. No matter how secure you think you still stand a chance of being attacked. So now, if you don't have legal team embedded into your information security functionality, you would struggle.
I think I've put them all out.
Identifying accountability. How do you hold someone accountable for malfunctioning services? Okay, so the legal team has to be embedded. There have to be contracts between your organization and the organization you actually assessing or conducting this external work with. So the other guy that asked questions is a trained lawyer, has a big chance in information security, or maybe unknown to him, knowing or unknown to him. There's a legal aspect of information security as well, which you can actually use your legal knowledge to add some, just buttress it, adding some more skills to that, and you would actually flourish within information security. So also we have the finance department, there are those capabilities, we have the IT departments and the HR department. All these functionalities come together to build a strong and functional GRC system in an organization. So Sometimes these services is being outsourced. Outsourced, when they say something is outsourced, it means it's actually, well, you've asked someone else to do it on your behalf. So these are the work that's been done and carried out by other parties. Sometimes it might be carried out by external stakeholders. Sometimes it could be internal or the likes of contractors or things like that. So work are being carried out in those aspects as well from information security point of view. Okay, so we got this definition from BMC, or what does governance means? What does risk means? What does compliances means? The governance means that this means by which an organization is directed and controlled. Obviously, there should be a head in everything, in an organization, in a country, in a unit, even in a home. There should be some sort of governance. These are where the rules are made. These are where policies are being agreed on. This is how we intend to do this. This is where we actually understand where we stand as a unit. This is what we want to achieve, and this is the governance around it. Like some Yoruba adage you say, wherever there is no law, there is no sin. So if there's no law, there is no guidance, nothing. It's just open. So there has to be a form of governance in place. So that's what that means. What does risk means? Most people tend not to understand the importance of risk. Actually, everybody in information security, be you an architect, be you a DevOps engineer, be you whatever in information security, all we are working towards is managing risk. So information security is risk. Risk is information security. What our job is to identify risk and remediate risk. Everyone in information security. So some might have aspect of monitoring some functions in InfoSec within cybersecurity, but at the end goal of it is to ensure that we don't get attacked. We're managing the risk of our organization. So risk here, as defined by BMC again, is a possible event that could cause harm or loss or make it more difficult to achieve an objective. So we can break this down if you want. Say, for instance, you actually trying to achieve a goal. You actually want to make sure your server or of your organization is adequately protected. For it to be protected, you must identify what makes it vulnerable and start working on identifying your vulnerabilities and fixing them as quick as possible or as prompt as possible. Okay, so that's part of risk. Whatever makes your system difficult or harmful to your organization, makes it difficult for you to achieve your goal or your objective, can be defined as some level of risk. Well, for me, I'm a mathematician. I love mathematics. So if I come across anything like this, I actually put it into mathematical terms. So risk in mathematics or in this level could be defined as impact and likelihood, which means a risk would happen based on, you define your risk based on the impact it will have when the risk comes to play. And now likelihood, which is the possibility or chances that this risk would actually come to light or come to life or wherever. So that's how risk is quite important. It is important in managing risk. We can go into a deep dive on how to manage risk, but that's like a full topic on its own. So this is just an introductory to GRC. The third aspect of GRC is compliances. So by definition, compliances is ensuring you follow the appropriate guideline and you use proper and consistent accounting practices. Basically, for instance, the previous speaker spoke about ISO 27001. If we are building our organization framework to align with ISO 27001 standards, ISO International Standard Organization, which means we have a best practice to adhere to. So if we are following that, we must make sure whatever activities we are building it around, it's compliant to that. So that's where the compliances come to play. So it comes to play to ensure that organizations or people within the company are following the appropriate guidelines and use proper and consistent accounting practices. So it is marked against the controls. For instance, if ISO 27001 propose a 14 modules or 14 controls that has to be implemented, you have to comply to it to ensure that you are adhering to ISO 27001 framework. Okay, that's high-level information. I'll be happy to answer a question on that after the session. I've also come here in my second slide just to try and explain what governance, risk, and compliances mean. This is just what I've tried to talk about earlier on. Governance, this is the means by which an organization is directed and controlled. In GRC, governance is necessary for setting directions through strategies and policy, monitoring performance and controls, and evaluating outcomes. Okay, it's self-explanatory. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Risk is a possible event that could be harmful, that could cause harm or loss, or make it more difficult for you to achieve your objectives. In GRC, risk management ensures that the organization identifies, analyze, and control risk that can derail the achievement of strategic objectives. Okay, and in the last bit of it, which is the compliances part of it, compliances emphasize on the act of ensuring that a standard or set of guidelines is followed, or that proper, consistent accounting or other practices are being employed. In GRC, compliances ensures that, depending on the context, the organizations take to measure and implement controls to assure that compliance requirements are met consistently. So that's GRC for you in the definition basis. Someone else from this group might actually be coming from a different, I've had interaction with someone who was a trained lawyer, a trained doctor, and is telling me, I want to dive into cybersecurity, I want to abandon my field. I've been hearing about GRCs and what does that mean, what does that help, and I hope if that person is on this session, I hope my definition within GRC would actually help you. Foundation is important. It's actually very important to have understanding of what key terms means. Okay, so if you have understanding of what does risk mean, you would actually know how to manage the risk. If you have understanding of what governance means, you would know that having a policy as a business, or as an individual, having a strategy to achieve those policies or to implement them, or having a guidelines or having a standard in place as a business is a very key component. Sometimes some people will ask you, in compliances, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to have acceptable use policy? Why can't I log on to my Facebook account with my work system? Compliances tells you, gives you the full guides on what to do and what not to do. So we are not just making things up when you log on to your company's, your work address or whatever, and you try to access a few web page and they're not working, they've been blocked or something. We are not just making things up. It's actually important that we understand these things from security point of view. So we dive into benefits. What benefits do we get as a business if you have a GRC functions in place? According to CIO.com, the benefits of GRC includes, the first thing it does, it improves in decision making, which means you have governance. You have a direction as a business, as an IT organization, or as a cybersecurity functions. You have an improved decision-making, which benefits the entire organization, both financially, making sure system is secure. You're actually not prone to attack by anybody, which means your system is well adequately secure. You stand less chance of losing trust with your staff or with your customer. You also stand less chance of having the likes of reputational damages or hefty fines from the likes of regulatory companies like maybe GDPR or things or PCI or something. When you breach regulations, you get punished. Okay, so you have improved decision that benefits the entire organization holistically. More optimal IT investments. That's one of the benefits of GRC. It's because GRC will identify risk. It will identify the lapses you have as an organization. So key stakeholders, which are the maybe when I say key stakeholder, I mean people on the top, like the executive, senior exec, will have optimal knowledge of the deliverables, which means they would invest in IT. They would, maybe you have a server, some organizations are still using server that's actually with configurations in the early 2000s. Meanwhile, a lot of companies are now moving on to the cloud. A lot of companies are moving on to a lot of smarter ways of working. So with GRC functions, you can actually have thorough experience and explanations to people, to business owners. And when you explain to them why you need to upgrade your system, why you need to have a robust incident management process, why you need to have an adequate patch management process, why you need to do all this good stuff we're talking about, they wouldn't ask you for the benefits. Once you explain the benefits to them, look, listen, if someone is trying to make a transfer to our bank, we can actually get balance or money transferred in minutes, in real time, if we implement X and Y controls. They would now think, hang on, if at the moment we have 10 staff, we're making 10 million pounds a year, if we can have these robust answers, which means in a very short time, we would be able to do what? To make 20 million. So investors are thinking about finances. And once you are enabling them on how, if they invest in information security, they can get more money off it, they would be keen to approve budgets and ensure that deliverables are actually made. The next one here is elimination of silos. There's a lot of silos in information security, a lot of doubts in people's mind that GRC functions would specifically call them out. And in the nutshell, those kind of doubts or let's say a layback approach can be easily eliminated. We also have, and as benefit, a reduced fragmentation among divisions and departments. When there's a GRC, there are rules, there are functions. So other divisions knows their job. A finance, a finance director or an accountant understands that they don't have to dive into decision making when it has to come to InfoSec. There's a GRC functions in place. There's rules, there's strategy, there's regulations. HR department all knows that whilst they are onboarding maybe there's a new joiner to the business, they understand that they have to inform information security and as per maybe your framework, ISO 27001 requirements, all new joiners will have to go through some sort of security awareness training. So everyone, all divisions have understanding of what the deliverables are. GRC brings this on board, okay? And the next one here is the approach of GRC functions. So GRC is best implemented in a holistic manner, which means it is best when you can't say as a company, we're only going to emphasize on governance. We would treat our risk later. You can't say we're only going to treat our risk, we will forget about compliances. You have to carry everyone along. The three sub-area of GRCs has to be embedded. So one of it is to ensure that it has to be implemented in an holistic manner, which encompasses the entire organizations. This does not necessarily mean that umbrella units is required for coordination, even though that might work for certain types of entities. There's a different approach for everybody. But the best approach as per security best practices is that you implement with GRC across the entire organization. You wouldn't say we have a branch in Lagos and Abuja, we're only going to have our security functions enabled in Lagos and abandon the one in Abuja. Security has to be across board. So that's the kind of approach we are actually, we try to preach and work towards in InfoSec. So GRC also integrates and with various sub-disciplines of governance. We also integrate into risk management, into auditing. For instance, when we talk about audit, we have someone mentioned on the call earlier on about being an internal auditor, right? So the essence of internal auditing is to prepare you for external audits. And without you being able to pass your external auditing functions, you might lose your certifications like maybe Cyber Essentials, maybe ISO 27001 certification or things like that. So you need to get your house in order make sure your alignment with these functions and framework is actually working. You're doing your internal auditing, checking into maybe your business continuity plan, looking after your, there's a lot of things we look after when we security awareness training, patches management, making sure all this necessary good stuff that are part of the modules of ISO 27001 are being adhered to. You also look into compliances, and also not to forget, every organization and every country have different culture and ethics of doing things. For instance, in the UK or in the European Union, there's a regulations that talk about GDPR requirements. If you have a branch in South Africa, for instance, it's outside the EU, so you would actually align with your local laws. Okay, so GRC enables us to have that thorough understanding of this is how things is done in Lagos. That same approach might not work in London. Okay, so you follow the approaches of what is implemented in your local region. I think this one is not relevant. So, okay, we come into, there's what we also call capability model. Capability model is made up of 4 components. So one of the capability model is to learn. To learn about the organization, when you try to implement GRCs, we have capability model. One of them talks about learning. You have to learn about the organization context, the organization culture, and the key stakeholder to inform objectives and strategies and action. Say, for instance, if you work in GRC, most of your job titles could be an information security consultant, have work capacity of information security manager. You will be in charge of key decision making. And for you to be successful as your roles, you need to actually learn the culture of the organization. What is our objectives? Who are our competitors? What do we stand to achieve? Then you now align your policy and strategy with the objectives of the business. So someone talked about writing policy, and I saw a link to SANS and everything earlier on. So for you to write a policy means you actually telling people this is how to work in this is how to achieve a particular function. This is a way we expect you to think as a business. Okay, so for you to come in from nowhere and try to write policy for an organization and you want that to work, you must first understand the organizational context in terms of the culture. You need to have calls. You need to be communicative with key stakeholders to understand the business objectives of that organization prior to you knowing how to implement this policy. Yes, someone might argue that information security is the same across board. Yes, but it is. But it's different from implementation. When you want to implement, you can't tell me, say for instance, you working in the financial sector. Financial sector have a zero tolerance to a lot of attacks, a lot of things, a lot of finances, access control or data management and things like that. And if you are coming from maybe JD Sports is a retailer, they sell clothes and everything. Their idea to information security will be a bit more relaxed. Okay, they are concerned about having their web page up and running. It's not being able to infiltrated or anything because that's where they get the money from. Maybe they sell using the app or the web page or things. So the context and the context one, the culture of organizations are different. So you need to take your time when you get your job or when you work in information security and GRC functions, understand the context of the organization, understand the organizational structure. People do things differently in different sectors. Okay. The next one within our capability model is about alignments. There's what we call strategy. You have to align your information security strategy with business, with objectives. Any actions with the strategy, the way to go about it is by using effective decision-making that address values, opportunities, threats, and requirements. Say, for instance, we are trying to build a new, let's say a new server that can host or house our data. Maybe we actually migrating our data to be going to the cloud platform using the likes of AWS or things like that. You need to make sure your strategy aligns with the business needs, because for you to get budget approval, stakeholders must want, the business thinking people within the organization that will approve this money to you would want to know what is our justification, what is our benefits to this. Does it improve us? Does it improve our sales? Okay, so alignment of strategy has to work hand in hand with objectives. Okay, and the next one on our capability model is the perform. So we call perform. So perform actions that promotes and reward things that are desirable and prevent and remediate things that are undesirable. Okay, so what this is saying is we are only going to be working on the organizational objectives. Any performance that we are putting in place must align with what promotes us as a business. Okay, in GRC, we think more from business point of view, and protecting data and protecting this environment rather than on individual scale. Okay, so we remediate anything that is undesirable and detect when something happens as soon as possible. Obviously, there's a lot of mechanisms in InfoSec on how to detect when things are not desirable, when things are not working. That's why you find yourself, if you work in GRC, you would be involved in a series of meetings. You will be fortunate to be in meeting with key stakeholders, maybe some directors, some COO, CEO, because in those sessions, they will be asking you, what do you think? What is the secure? From security perspective, what's your decision on this? What do you think about this? You would be able to advise key stakeholders on strategic decision making. Then those decisions can then be reviewed. Okay, I think security is important. Security has said we shouldn't be sending out file to an organization, to someone, to a third party if it's not encrypted. Or we should not use this, or we are using this likes of the way we're sending out data to people might be with old non-secure system, maybe old encryption methodology, maybe using the likes of TLS 1.0 or things that are not aligned to updated security best practices. Security will come in and say, look, we stand a chance of losing all this data or being infiltrated using this type of mechanism. We need to upgrade our system to the likes of TLS 1.2, or maybe all our data needs to be encrypted at rest using AES 256 or other mechanism or technologies that you want to implement. Okay, so that's one of the capabilities module. And the last one I've got on my slide here is the design, is a review. So in the capability module, you review the design and operating effectiveness of the strategy and actions, as well as ongoing appropriateness of objectives to improve the organization. So it's here in a diagram way. Let's see if I can expand it more, where we talk about learn, align, perform, and review. Okay, so this is the capability module from a GRC point of view. And the last thing I've got on my slides today is the GRC solutions. So in order to address the needs of GRC, a lot of organizations are turning into technology solutions. These solutions enable leaders to monitor GRC across the enterprise by using business processes and information technology. Information technology continue to align with governance, risk, and compliance requirements. I'm not sure if any one of us works in GRC already, but there's a tool called maybe OneTrust. OneTrust is like a tool you can use as a GRC functionality where you have all your third parties built within that OneTrust tool. It's easy for you to communicate across all your third parties using OneTrust. You can also maybe manage your risk in there, you manage your governance and everything. So it's a solution, it's like a GRC solution that can actually help you make a decision. Sometimes even within those tools, you can identify how many, you can even embed all your servers into it. You can understand, oh, how many suppliers do we have in this company? If they are with OneTrust or with those technological tools, you can easily identify we have 5,000 suppliers. How many of them has been assessed by InfoSec? So you can from there you can bring out a graphical design or a form of graph or pie charts to identify, oh, these are the numbers of suppliers we have. These are the numbers that are assessed. These are the numbers that are not assessed. The ones that are not assessed means that we are not even sure if they have adequate control to protect data or protect systems in place, which means if we get an attack, the first concern we should have as a business is the non-assessed suppliers. So technologies which are out there are there to support or to support information security from GRC functions. There's a lot of them. We have the likes of RSA Archer, we have SureCloud, we have LockPath, a lot of them coming up these days, but these tools are there to enable your functionality. Okay, so on the next slide, well, the final bit of it is capabilities. Your capability as a GRC, as a GRC or security personnel. So one of the things we should be looking at, you would be involved in doing, is risk management. Risk management, you would learn how to log your risk, analyze the risk, and manage the risk. Okay, we have document management. It is important to understand, at least have a thorough understanding of Microsoft Office suites. Document management is one of the key important skill within information security. Like the other speaker said before, we write a lot of reports. You should learn how, you will have to learn how to document stuff. We're talking about controls. We can talk about incident management control, risk management control, ISMS policy, patch management, business continuity plan. All these controls comes in form of documents. Okay, you need to have thorough understanding on how to write a very good documentation and how to manage documentation as well. Information security documentations or policies are living documents, and they should be reviewed frequently, at least once in a year. So it is important you would actually have those skill sets on how to write documentation. So if someone is on this call and mentioned that he was a trained lawyer, you stand a very good chance because you've been writing documentation and reviewing documentation all your life. All you have to do is to bring that skill and add a bit of technology into it, then off you go, okay? We also have audit management. Like I said before, when we have information security certification, to maintain this certification, you would need some form of internal audit and external auditing, okay? There's what we call surveillance audit. Maybe you've achieved your information security certifications as a business, you have the likes of maybe ISO 27001 or Cyber Essential. The organizations might tell you, as part of our requirement, we come to your organization and audit what you have in place if you are still aligned to these requirements. So you need to be prepared for this audit, because if you fail that audit, they would retract the certification from you as an organization. Okay, so auditing is also a key functions of it, and to understand audits is quite easy. It's just for you to understand the controls that the framework or the controls that the organizations or the regulatory body you're working with are aligned with. Make sure all the things that they want you to have in place, you have them in place. You maybe some of them will say you should have if you have a third-party management, you need to conduct a third-party assessment on them. If you have a patch management policy, you need to have embedded with your change management process. Make sure the patches are being tested before it's being rolled out, and make sure you are not lacking behind within your patches. Some organizations will say, no, we can't do that. We can't keep up with our patches. So, but because of the changes and things we need to do, we might have one behind. Maybe if a patch is released maybe the patch 2.1 released today, the organization's policy enabled them to have be updated up to 2.0, whilst they make a lot of research and trials on the 2.1. They don't just you don't just accept those patches and implement it and roll it live in your live environment. So there's a lot of these regulatory requirements. There's a lot of learning that we need to get used to for you to be able to make a solid advisory within information security. And one of the other aspects also is reporting. Reporting, some people might say, is the same thing as documentation. Reporting is also very important. You must be able to give reports. maybe you conduct an assessment, a third-party assessment on a supplier. And at the end of your assessment, you're using gap analysis, you've used controls of where we are and our current state and our desired states. You have understanding of what the gap, you've identified these gaps and everything. You don't just get this gap, these informations, your reports, this information from your assessment and put it under your pillow. You would have to write a report on it, and this report needs to be submitted to the key business owners. So if there are some remediation work that needs to be done, people will be working on them and try to get those findings remediated. Once they are being remediated, they revert back to you. You go through the remediation process. Once you are satisfied that, okay, the gaps that was identified before has now been fixed, then you can then close it. If some of these gaps cannot be fixed, sometimes you can raise a risk on them. Have a risk owner, raise a risk, and someone working within the risk management framework would be monitoring that risk from the risk register, identify the risk owner. The risk owner will tell you how long it takes them to fix that risk. So whilst they are working on the risk, you're focusing on something else. Every organization has what we call acceptable risk. So sometimes if the risk cannot be totally closed, but it can be accepted to the business, someone might be able to accept the risk. And if we can't even accept it or anything, so in some cases, we could transfer the risk. There's a lot of ways on risk treatment. We have a risk treatment plan, we call them, my acronym to that is RAT, right? So you either learn how to, you either reduce the risk, or you accept the risk, or you transfer the risk. I can give you an example of a situation whereby a risk can be transferred. Say, for instance, you work for a bank, and the bank has history of people infiltrating them, like attacking them, and you sending your customer dodgy emails, and they would fall for those phishing attack or whatever, and they get infiltrated and everything. Because this happens all the time, you implemented what we call cyber security awareness training to your staff. But trust me, not a lot of people will be able to follow the instructions and identify phished email or things like that. What you can do as a business is to maybe get a cyber, what we call cyber security policy. There's a policy that tells you, what's this policy called again? There's a cyber security insurance policy, which means whenever you get attacked, but as a business, and if the effect of it is magnitude, you can actually share the loss with an insurance company, and the insurance company would actually pay out for you. So if maybe one of your customer has X amount of money in their bank account and that money gets taken out, this insurance policy will step in and actually share the loss with you. And the last part of it is in GRC, as a security personnel, you must be analytical in your thinking, you must be critical in your thinking. You must understand that in information security, security exists for the business. It's not the other way around. The business does not exist for us. We are business enablers. So you need to have even though controls are not fully embedded or fully in place, you should have understanding that, okay, let's come to a compromise, let's meet halfway, let's have some level of security involved. Then the other part of it that is lacking should be recorded, should be tracked on an ongoing basis, and hopefully at some point we would have enough finances to boost or to try to fix those aspects that is missing. So I think I would stop for time basis. I will stop here, and I'll be open to questions. Thank you. You're mute. We can't hear you, Mr. Remy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ramon. That was good. So has anyone got any question?
I can see a lot of questions here.
You can just raise up your hand if you have question.
So
okay, I think Chibuze, let me just allow him.
Where can we register for CompTIA A+? So CompTIA A+ is on the web page. If you type CompTIA.
No, I think they've answered those questions, Raman. Don't worry about the chats.
Good.
I think if you scroll down, you see that all those questions have been answered.
Good. So if anyone got any other questions, I'll be happy to answer. So 3 participants have their hands up. Abibi, Chibweze, and
Yes.
Chibweze, you
Thank you
can
so much.
Yeah, right. Can I go ahead?
yes, please.
Okay. Thanks, Ramon. I hope I pronounced that right. Thanks. That was really, really nice and straight to the point. I was just wondering. I do cybersecurity, and then most times when I'm trying to, have an interview and get a new role, and there's always this question about whether I have done GRC. So of course, within my role, it is not clear that I'm doing a GRC, and then I usually try to keep things simple. I don't like putting myself forward to say, oh, I do GRC. How job specs, you pick them up, and then there's bits and bobs of this and that. So, and then it's always difficult for me to have this conversation about, because I know I've seen roles that I really like because of the job conditions. So what I'm asking is then how, if somebody is trying to pivot from, being an analyst to like full-blown GRC, what would be your say? I mean, what would you tell me? How would you advise you to go about it to go full blown?
Good. So,
yeah, go on,
okay,
sorry.
go on. Yeah, have you? Yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, the last one was, I really like your slide. I don't know if it is something that can be shared. I'd really like it. So, but that's not a problem if it's as a sort of
actually,
yeah.
Good. Yeah. So let's answer the latter before the other one. Right. So in terms of the slide, I'm happy to share the slide with everyone. So I'll put a link on the chat or something. Yeah. Or if I get your email, I can email you directly and provide the slides to you. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll send it. We'll send it to all the attendees. So
okay, cool. Thanks.
Good. So the other bit of it is I'm glad you're already working in information security, and sometimes you try to transition into GRC functions, and you've been asked question, have you worked as GRC functions before, GRC analyst or wherever before? And if you obviously want the job, and sometimes people will lie and say, yes, I have. And maybe if you say you don't have that experience, and and you're not showing willingness to get into that GRC functions, it might be difficult for someone to try you and say, yeah, he has the experience, let's give him the opportunity. But what I can say to that is, if I were you, I'll answer yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if when the work comes to play, what you need to get to flourish in that aspect is you would, to be honest, you will need training and you will need mentorship.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So those are the two things you need to identify how to get those things.
Mm-hmm.
Training and mentorship. You already have prior experience, okay? So now all you need to be taught is how to be an advisory of what you've been implementing over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you might just need some couple of hours or some couple of weeks training, and you can then add that onto your previous skill.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you go. Someone gives you an opportunity. Of course, it gets better. Your first job might not be as good as your next one.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Yeah, we've got like 2 people. Bibi, is it the previous?
Thank you so much, Raman, for that wonderful session.
You're welcome.
My question, and like what I have discovered in your webinar or seminar today is that even though you want to know the cyber security is very, very wide, it's not possible for a particular person to, for you to touch a single cyber, to touch all aspects of cyber security. You must be a specialist in one, you must specialize in one area or the other. Even though when you look at this GRC, we're talking about that, even though what you want to try to assess and all those things, you must have the practical of how it works, even though it's not your current job. Indirectly, you are saying, even though you are aspiring to be a GRC, you have to have practical ideas on all other aspects of cybersecurity to make your implementation smooth. But my challenge now is that, if you are coming into cybersecurity, so you have been in IT, but you are coming into cybersecurity as maybe as an entry, through the entry level, most of these organizations, especially in this part of the country we have, I see that they don't even give that trust for them to try. They're looking for somebody that has acquired, even though they call it entry level job. I discovered that most of them, they are looking for somebody that has acquired one experience in this field. In this situation, how do you think we can tackle it in such a way you've tried to write certification, online training, have mentorship and all those things? How do you think we can still put more efforts to get what you are really looking for? Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. First question. First thing to do to you is to ask you a question. Where are you based?
UK.
Good. So, fortunately for you, your answer is you would need someone to walk you through these processes, and your answer is right here, LANSEC. Okay. We've been actually helping people over the years to transcend fully into cybersecurity. We've been providing end-to-end and one-to-one mentorship for people. Easy for us if you have IT background, and obviously, that doesn't say that people that doesn't have IT background are not coming with us, and we help them and they achieve their goals. One of the things we also do for people is we will prep you for interviews. We would also guide you when you get your job. Okay, then we would provide guidance to you until you are actually able to go on your own. Okay, so that's one of the things. Obviously, security is broad, is big, and everything. I still think most of us has been to uni for 4 years, had a master's as well in InfoSec. After doing all those, even some of us in the background are still doing PhD. So it's not within the same field. It's not going to be possible for somebody to come, I'm a smarty, and just give me a slide or give me a PowerPoint or a CV, and I'll apply, I'll get a job, and I'll be successful in the job. Trust me, you're right. It's a long journey, but you need someone to guide you, and that answer is on this call. So you might want to get in contact with Remy or the other speaker or anyone on the session, team helpful, and they would be able to provide guidance to you. That's the only way you would actually be able to do the job. Because trust me, I know people, they've been applying for jobs for months and they couldn't get a job. And I know people that because of their experience, they apply for a job, they get an interview, maybe a second job or third job, and they get the job quickly. Employers are out there for quality resource, basically. So when you go there, you speak to people. These are people that have been doing the job over the years. When they hear you speak about certain things, they want you on board. Okay, and if you are new to the field, you are competing with experienced people as well. So you need somebody that can make you ready or make you feel like you are that experienced, put you in a state whereby you can communicate like an experienced person as well. So that way you will be able to get opportunity and get roles. I hope that.
All right. Yeah, that's thanks, Ramon. I
Thank
think
you so much.
that really answered the question. I think the last question we're going to take today will be from Anita. So Anita, you can ask a question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, my voice is a bit crooked. I just woke up. Okay, so my question, I don't know if it's a question per se, it's more of like a directional question. I'm currently an IT GRC analyst at my place of work. And my intention wasn't to go into, because I was already in IT, but since it was an entry-level role, like I was transitioning back to IT from my previous job. So, and my target was actually cybersecurity, GRC in cybersecurity, but I was opportune to get a job for IT. And I believe that cybersecurity is like a part of IT in general. So currently we're doing like compliance, and a lot of Raman's slide resonated with me. I'm just asking, like, we have a roadmap. We're trying to get SOX compliant now. After that, GDPR and then ISO. So I just wanted to get like advice, so to speak, on certification I can take that would help me implement these compliance regulations in my organization for my employer.
Good. And thanks for the question. So helpful. Two answers to this question. Number one, I always pitch to people, go on YouTube. If you have a phone now, go on YouTube, type Professor Mesa on YouTube and CompTIA S+. That's ESPO for today. CompTIA S+, Professor Mesa, right? It's end-to-end CompTIA S+ training. Is free. Okay, go there. You would have on, and it's a good certification to have because it's a global certification. That's one. That's something you might be able to do in the background. But the other thing you would need to do that you would make money off, I can bet you on this, is to reach out to LINSEC for their PCB lead implementer or lead auditor ISO 27001 training and exam. That certification gives you more. Do you understand? There's slides, they have, there's these modules involved. There's these modules, even though you miss some question in the class, there are modules and documentations that you would be able to read, okay? And you would also have a global certification, although we've been involved in that training for some time and I've not seen anyone fail, to be fair, and you can take that to your job any day, anytime. And if you get an interview, someone call you, can you tell me about yourself? You can use that as your opening language, or as your open statement. Hi, my name is Cynthia from Cynthia Morgan. Let's say, my name is Cynthia Morgan. I'm an experienced and certified information ISO 27001 lead auditor. The questionnaire is already thinking, I'm speaking to an expatriate here. I'm an experienced lead implementer. Do you understand? Because I'm certified and experienced lead. I keep telling people, if you have knowledge without certification, you have nothing to back it up. Even though you're not using the certification, get that certification at least tomorrow or any day. You know that when I learn about ISO, I'm an ISO, I know about ISO and I have a certification to back you up. And that is end to end as well. That knowledge is the knowledge of ISO 27001 is focused mainly on GRC, although it contains some other aspects, but it focused mainly on GRC. But the knowledge of CompTIA S+, I always advise people to do this, is end-to-end security. You will know networking, you will know encryption, you will know InfoSec, you will know all end-to-end security. Professor Mesa that's the name, Professor Mesa, CompTIA S+ training. I think it's SYS 501 or something. It's on YouTube. That's what I take away from you.
I'm sorry, finally, like, is there any certification course for GDPR?
There are trainings. Don't bother about that. Just go on Udemy, pay £10 or £20, do a course on GDPR and get the certification to back you up. GDPR is a regulation. So it's just more of you being aware and having the knowledge. So I've not actually come across a robust GDPR globalized certification for GDPR. Maybe there is, I don't know, but the easier way to get these things, go on Udemy or speak to Christy or Remy or whoever, and they might be able to guide you towards achieving or having something to back up GDPR. Also, GDPR trainings are being done on e-learning portals of most organizations in the UK. So you go to your companies, identify their e-learning portal. E-learning portal is where you learn like acceptable use or things of the organization wants you to know about, like normal training that people give in an organization, right? They have trainings there, so you can learn from there and have the certification.
All right, thank you very much. And I think at this juncture, we need to call it a day. I must sincerely thank our speakers, Christy and Raman. You know, I wish we can go on and on and on and on, but you know, time is not our friend. But I believe the audience have benefited one thing or the other, and we also thank everyone that joined us today on this webinar. This is a series, you know, being provided by LINSEC. We have done that of a day in the life of a SOC analyst, and this is a day in the life of GRC. We still have some other areas where we're going to touch before the end of the year. So watch this space, and we'd like you to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just look for LINSEC Official. Then you'll be able to get updates of our webinar. And if you're interested in training as well, as Raman has mentioned, we provide training for beginners and also certification as well. We are authorized training provider for PECB and EC Council as well. So if you're looking at the technical area, CEH, CHFI, you know, you can just ping us, send email to training@linsec.com. And if you're interested in PECB, ISO 27000, our lead implementer, lead auditor, also email training@linsec.com. You can also follow us on YouTube. You can search for subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, you can search for LINSEC on YouTube. We've got some previous webinars that we have done, you know, like, you know, there's a webinar on how to dive into cybersecurity, you know, for those that want to have a wider view of all the domains there, which was done some few months ago. And a day in the life of SOC analyst was there as well. We're going to publish this as well on our YouTube channel. So you can just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. And we're going to send the you know, presentation to you and the link to the recorded YouTube, you know, for the webinar on YouTube. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Yes, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.